Hey y'all, Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates. And recently, Bellevue was listed as one of the top real estate markets heading into 2022, according to a recent Forbes article. And in this video, we are going to review this article. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Bellevue real estate market. I'm gonna point out some other markets that are right around Bellevue that also may be some of the hottest in the country as we head into 2022. So Forbes recently published an article titled "The Hottest Housing Markets Going into 2022." And of the 5 cities named, Bellevue was the first one on the list. It was joined by a few other markets like Cary, North Carolina, Buffalo, New York, San Jose, California, and McKinney, Texas, all quite different in location and what they have to offer. But Bellevue, the market that I work in here locally, Bellevue, Seattle real estate market, I want to highlight Bellevue itself because I think it's cool that Bellevue is named on this list and highlighted. Now, a lot of times these lists say Seattle and they kind of blanket include Everett, Tacoma, Bellevue, Seattle, and the whole region, which definitely changes and impacts the numbers. But if we're looking at pure growth and competition, Bellevue is going to be one of the most competitive markets, and I know it is here, and it's interesting to see that that's a similar trend across the country. So let's dive into the article here. We're just gonna read the beginning. I'm not gonna go through the commentary on Cary, North Carolina, or Buffalo, New York, because in this video, we're gonna focus more on Bellevue, but we'll read the beginning of the article, talk about it a little bit, and then I'm gonna bring in some other stats here and add some additional context. As we jump into the article here, it begins by setting the stage, giving context that we are here in November 2021. We've got about 1 month left of the calendar year, and we're gonna be looking at and comparing October 2016 to October 2021. So they're looking at a 5-year gap, and they're looking at how much have these places grown and what do the markets look like now compared to what they looked like 5 years ago. Now, I have to start by saying I'm not sure this is the best way to determine the hottest housing markets going into 2022, because the fact that it was, 50, 60% cheaper in 2016 and now it's going to be so much more expensive now, it doesn't really lend itself to the logical conclusion that 2022 is going to be super hot because in the last 5 years it's been so hot. But I think it's at least worth noting, and the fact that Bellevue's on here is super cool. So we'll talk about the Bellevue section here. I'll read through the Bellevue section, add a little bit of context, and then we'll talk about some of the other markets that I think also might be really hot in 2022 using some of the same logic, but also just the fact that I'm working in these markets every day. I'm going to read the entirety of the Bellevue section here. It's one large paragraph, and it starts off, Bellevue is a large suburb of Seattle, I said that earlier, and frequently voted as one of the best places to live, and Bellevue's housing numbers support this claim. Over the last 5 years, again going back to the 5 years, the median sales price in Bellevue has risen by nearly 80%. Wow, that's a lot. From $735,000 in October 2016 to $1.32 million in October 2021. We're gonna pause here because I was looking at the Northwest Multiple Listing data, and they reference Redfin data, but Redfin's data would come from the Northwest Multiple Listing Service data. And as I'm looking at it, it looks like they are taking into consideration condos as well. So they're taking the total median sales price, including condos and single family, and usually lumping those two together isn't my favorite. I like to usually look at them separately. It gives a better picture for what the condo market looks like and the single family housing market looks like, because really they're completely different. Different buyers, different types of properties. But in this case, to have that in perspective as we're talking about the numbers they're using, and I'll share here that if we're looking at single family only, I pulled the numbers from 2016 in October, all the way up till now. And if we look at single family, we're looking at $865,000 median sales price, so quite a bit higher as a starting point, all the way up to $1.59 million. So again, about $300,000, close to $300,000 more for a single family house looking at median sales price than if you lump in all the condos. And the condos would be considerably cheaper than that. 1.32 million number. So just for some perspective, it's still a very large amount of growth, similar percentage, but the numbers are a little bit bigger, starting higher and going up higher. Picking up back in the article, meanwhile, homes are getting sold for more than their list price. Yes, that was the case in 2016 and also now. Bellevue's average sales to list price ratio was 107.8%, which is 7.8% above the asking price in October 2021. And that's 6.1% higher than it was last year at 1.5% above asking price. Now, again, the difference in that change, I don't know if that necessarily makes it hotter or not, but it's good perspective to see the difference. And back in 2016, I think we were actually seeing a little bit higher number. I did not check that stat or verify that stat, but my gut says that in 2016, we were seeing even more than 1.5% over asking price. We were just talking about lower price numbers because the market back then was pretty hot as well. It's just not as hot as it is now. Let's finish out the paragraph here. And you probably thought I would never make it to the end of a paragraph, but I'm going to. Not surprisingly, the number of available homes is dwindling with sale inventory down 77.5% from last year. Again, we're talking about the collective condo and single families mashed together. From 267 available homes for sale in October 2020 down to just 60 in October 2021. I did look into these numbers here, and it looks like if we were talking about all property types, which it seems like this article is talking about, we're talking about 319 homes for sale at the end of October 2020. And we're down to only 60 homes for sale in 2021. Now, if we look at the single family homes by themselves and don't clump in the condos, we go from 113 homes for sale at the end of October 2020, and we drop all the way down to 37 single family homes in all of Bellevue for sale as we jump into November 2021. Now, if we look at the single family homes themselves and not the condos, we're talking about 37 homes for sale, which is 0.3 months of supply, which if we were to do the math is just over 1 week's supply of homes. So pretty much every house that's coming on the market is selling that week. Now again, that's an average. So there are some that sit a little bit longer, but most of them are selling super quickly. The condo market in Bellevue was also quite a bit slower as we were looking at the end of 2020. So at the end of 2020, we had 163 condos for sale in Bellevue, and now we are down to 26 condos for sale in Bellevue. So what's been happening in the single family market has also been happening in the condo market. Inventory is tightening up. There are not very many homes and clearly not enough to keep up with the demand as we've seen the inventory numbers dwindle as we've gone from 2020 to 2021. I think Bellevue will continue to be one of the hottest housing markets as we head into 2022 and into the future. I think there's also some other housing markets that surround Bellevue that are worth mentioning, and I want to bring a few of those into the conversation. Let's start off by looking at Kirkland, which is just a little bit north of Bellevue. And as we look at Kirkland's numbers, we're seeing a jump in median sales price very similar to Bellevue's. In 2016, Kirkland had a median sales price of $750,000. Again, that's single family homes. And if we jump to October 2021, that median sales price is now $1,438,000. Huge jump, just like Bellevue. If we look at supply of homes, we saw 78 homes for sale at the end of 2020 in October. And as we head down to 2021, we have 36 homes for sale in Kirkland, and that's 0.3 months of supply. So similar to Bellevue, just as tight, and homes are selling on average 8.2% above the asking price. Redmond is very similar, if not even a little bit hotter than Kirkland. $751,000 median sales price back in 2016, and fast forward to 2021, October 2021, median sales price of $1.48 million. Again, a huge jump. 49 homes for sale at the end of 2020, and now we're seeing 14 homes for sale in October 2021. So another huge drop off in supply. 0.2 months of supply, so even a little bit tighter than Kirkland and Bellevue. And we're looking at it, the average home selling 9.3% above asking price. Issaquah is another place near Bellevue that's seeing very similar growth. If we look at the median sales price growth from 2016 to 2021, the 5-year jump, $776,500, all the way up to $1.214 million. Again, another giant leap forwards. 42 homes for sale at the end of October 2021, and we're seeing that dwindling down to 15 homes for sale at the end of October 2021. 0.3 months of supply. So again, really, really tight inventory and 8.6% above asking price on average. And I'm seeing in all of these places, clients making offers that are way over those asking prices and listings getting a lot more than that. Now again, it's an average, so some are getting a little less and some are getting quite a bit more. Lastly, I wanna highlight Sammamish, again, a little bit south of Bellevue, but another really hot market. $837,888 median sales price. That's pretty specific. Back in October 2016. And if we jump 5 years into the future, October 2021, we're seeing a $1.527,500 median sales price. So that's over $1.5 million, right in the same ballpark as Bellevue. Bellevue's a little bit higher for single family on average, but again, Sammamish is the closest when it comes to that price. If we look at homes for sale, back in 2020, October 2020, we had 49 homes for sale in Sammamish, and now we're down to 7 houses for sale, October 2021. So again, this is the tightest one, 0.1 months of supply. It's like no homes pretty much. That's like half a week. And if we're looking at amount over asking price, we're talking about 8% over asking price on average in Sammamish. So is Bellevue going to be one of the hottest housing markets in the Seattle area in 2022? For sure. Is Bellevue going to be one of the hottest housing markets in the whole entire US in 2022? I have to say it's a little bit harder to predict, but I like where this article's going and I love the fact that we're getting mentioned here locally. I think it's important though to note that Bellevue is one city and it's really not a huge city. And all these other cities that surround Bellevue also are extremely hot. So the entire east side of Lake Washington is extremely popular right now. I want to point out that Bellevue is a fairly small city. It is extremely popular and one of the most desirable places to live in the whole Seattle area. But you also have these other cities that surround Bellevue and offer different things and are equally as hot and as competitive. So if you're somebody who is looking to buy a house or even sell in the east side of Lake Washington over by Bellevue, you're going to be in a situation where as a seller, you're gonna be pumped because there's going to be most likely a lot of competition. And as a buyer, you need to expect and know going in that you're going to need to put all of your chips in on the table. It's a competitive area to live. It's a desirable place to live, but that means that it comes at a cost. Thanks so much for watching this video as we talk about Bellevue being one of the hottest places in the US to buy in 2022. If you found value from this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up on the video. And also, if you have some thoughts or commentary about the video, I'd love to see some comments down below. And lastly, if you are somebody who is thinking about buying a house in the Bellevue area this year and you want to talk a little bit more about your situation, I'd love to be a resource for you.